8:20 here, Big 550, KTRS. Just about 24 hours ago, shortly after we got off the air yesterday, Jason Hancock, who will be joining us next hour, posted a story on the Kansas City Star website, breaking open a story that people have been talking about sort of behind the scenes for a couple of weeks, and that is what was going on with this inappropriate texting relationship, at least with the Speaker of the House, John Deal, and a intern. Well, the story broke yesterday, and reaction has come from all places the last 24 hours. Our next guest has been outspoken. She is a colleague of John Deal. She is a House Democrat. She's from Clayton. It's Stacey Newman. Stacey, welcome back to Big 550 KTRS here in St. Louis.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. And actually, I want to point out, I actually live in Richmond Heights.
I apologize. Does
Yes.
your territory cover Clayton?
Yes, my district covers it, yes.
All right, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, you living in Richmond Heights and saying you live in Clayton. Your thoughts as you watch this. You've been outspoken. You think John Deal should step down as Speaker of the House?
I definitely think so. I mean, it has turned, the last 2 days of session into a complete zoo. I mean, we have a lot of bills that need to get to the governor's desk. There's health care. We have an education crisis. We just have all kinds of things, and this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a speaker who has a horrible reputation of dealing with women, including us women representatives, and for him not to step down and to allow this this zoo to continue. This is we're supposed to be doing the people's business. This is the people's time. You're paying us to be here, to represent you, and this is the story.
I want to actually ask you, just talk about the job, because you have a constitutional amendment that you have to end at the end of the day on Friday.
Correct, 6 p.m.
Right.
All business must stop at 6 p.m. on Friday.
So why can't, explain to us why John Deal cannot continue to run the House like he has been to get the people's business done because of this story between now and Friday?
Well, frankly, it's because what everybody wants to talk about. I mean, we want more details. We've also, as a House Democrats, have called for an investigation into this situation. I mean, this affects more than just the speaker. This affects an internship program through a university in our state. It affects some young people who are want to come to the legislature. To learn how we actually do business here. There's far-reaching, consequences from these actions, and there is, we believe, more to the story. And at the same time, our job here is to be dealing with, issues that people want us to deal with. And one of the things that this speaker is known for is his abhorrent treatment of particularly us Democrat women on the floor. Refuses to call on us. Waves at us from the dais and winks at us, and really does not allow us to represent our district, and that's unfortunate. And that's really is what's going to prevent any other business, coming up. I doubt that he will be on the dais the next 2 days because there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions, and meanwhile we're dealing with. Like I said, there's important things that we should be doing here in these next 48 hours. But
how much of this, Stacey Newman, is Democrats taking advantage of a crisis to slow things down? You guys are clearly in the minority. You're losing on a couple of these bills. So can you guys be criticized for taking advantage of a crisis, slowing things down, and not getting things done because of this, and using this as an excuse?
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, in the House, we don't have that power. I mean, for number one, we have to be recognized to be able to speak, and that's from whoever's on the dais. And we have literally no control over in terms of what bills are brought up, how fast they want to be brought up, when debate is cut off. No, I mean we have no influence over any of that. But we're waiting. we should be dealing, even yesterday, I mean, adjourned early. We have a lot of things on the calendar. We have a lot of people around the state that are depending on us to, get legislation here to the governor's desk. We've got a full calendar. And yet, when you're leery of bringing up bills and cutting off debate and not allowing, particularly us Democrats, to have much of a debate on things that are crucial. Again, our districts represent us to come down here and to represent them. Of course, we, from all over the state, we have all different kinds of backgrounds, but, there is some consensus among us in terms of what needs to get to the governor's desk.
When you were saying there's more to the story, are you talking about the situation with John Deal, or could there be other lawmakers who have abused this intern situation?
Well, I can't speak for any other situation. I'm unaware of anything else, and of course, this place is rampant with rumors. But at the same time, I mean, we've got a speaker that we insist is distracting at this point, and needs to step down. Again, we're down here on taxpayer time. This is not just supposed to be fun and games, and let's adjourn when it's uncomfortable. Like I said, we have serious business to do, and I believe this situation, regardless of what else comes out, has totally distracted, the entire Capitol from getting our business done.
Keith English, according to the Missouri Times, says that Keith English said that he supports John Deal, 1, but 2, that part of this petition that's going around, 2 different lawmakers who signed this petition to get John Deal out of the speakership are doing the same thing John Deal is accused of. Should Keith English mention those lawmakers who are doing the same thing John Deal's accused of?
Well, I mean, you're talking about behavior that I want to classify as, this is what we all dealt with in junior high. There's all kinds of rumors running around, and there's all kinds of allegations, but this is something that we do know. The speaker has come out and with the press, and he's even apologized for this behavior, with a young college freshman. And I think we have to step back and realize that, we as electeds should be held to a higher standard here. I mean, we're professionals. We have some ethics that we should be operating under. And this affects more than just John Deal. This affects an internship program. This could affect the entire internship programs from all the colleges here in our state. Many of us work with a lot of interns from all different schools. We count on them. We want them to learn. We want them to have a good experience in the Capitol. And at the same time, if we have to turn our attention to what are our ethics and how do we protect these young people from those who prey on them, sexually prey on them. I mean, this is wrong. This is not the legislature that I don't believe that, people elected us to come down here and deal with. I mean, in any other corporate atmosphere, if there was any allegation of any impropriety between those in power and those aren't, I mean, it would have been taken care of. It would have been done. People would have resigned. They would have stepped down. And yet that's what we're going to continue to talk about when, I said, we've got these important bills that are sitting on the calendar that need to get to the governor's desk.
Stacey Newman, there's been no allegations of any violence, no allegations of any. She did, from the texts that have been released, it seemed like she was a willing participant. She was engaged in this. She wasn't coerced into this. Isn't this a private matter between John Deal, his wife, and this 19-year-old woman?
Well, it might have been at one point the private matter, but I think once the university became involved, when they felt it was necessary to remove all of their interns from the Capitol, I believe there's way more to this story that we're going to be learning. That's why we've called for a full investigation. But again, you're talking about someone who is in ultimate power here in this Capitol and can determine and threaten a lot of things. And again, this has no place. If there's sexual improprieties happening in any corporate type of atmosphere, I mean, it's taken care of and it's done. People resign, sit down, we move on, you get back to business. And I think that's what Missourians want us to do. You know, this is really what we're going to be talking about the next 2 days if we're in session. And again, you know, the majority party is in charge. They can decide when we adjourn. They can decide who speaks on the floor. They can cut off debate as they do all the time.
Is John Deal?
We've got to get back to business.
Is John Deal in charge of the internship program? Did he have any supervisor powers over the intern program?
I don't believe so, but again, as a Speaker of the House, I mean, he is the ultimate, authority on the House side. And, when you're an 18, 19-year-old, I mean, you're subject, and you're working under that power. I think a lot of us who are parents, particularly those of us who have college daughters, are appalled by this. I mean, we have a lot of young women running around our Capitol, and they do not need to be coerced. They don't need to be threatened. They don't need to be in these suggestive environments that say, "Oh, this is fine. This is okay."
Do you think the girl bears any responsibility at all for her part in this story?
Well, I think we need to step back and think of this as parents. I mean, when you've got an 18 or 19-year-olds in the Capitol with this kind of behavior, I think you would think twice about, are you going to be treating, these young interns as full adults when they're in a highly power-charged atmosphere? I'm not going to talk about the decisions that, she made, and I'm sure she's regretting a lot of things, but, we're the adults here. We are the ones, and we're the professionals. We're the ones in charge. 2
questions for you, Stacey Newman. Have you ever felt sexually abused and or violated and or pressured in any way, shape, or form in your role as a legislator in the Capitol?
Well, I can tell you that there is a lot of sexism in this Capitol, and I can tell you that I've experienced, as many of us Democrat women, just complete disgust from our Speaker. There have been numerous times when he's on the dais, refused to acknowledge us to debate. He has to, whoever the Speaker is, has to call on us first, to be able to debate and represent our own districts. And there's been numerous times, including 3 years ago on a birth control bill, 7 of us Democrat women stood for 3 solid hours, and he refused to let us speak. Refused to let us, acknowledge, an issue that, that affects, 100% of women. That's the atmosphere that we have here. We are belittled. There is, like I said, sexism is just rampant, and that is something here that I believe we're not elected to come down here to have to fight that, and yet that's the reality. And
Stacey Newman, last question for you, because I'm short on time, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you said you have a college-age daughter. Would you allow your college-age daughter to be an intern at the Capitol?
I would have very second thoughts, and it would depend on who she was interning for. Oh, definitely. And in fact, my daughter has other friends that I know that are in the Capitol this session, and this makes us even more protective. And I think as parents, whether you're a mother or a father, you should think twice about having your child here, and depending on who they're interning for. Oh, definitely.
So if a mother or father contacted you and said, my daughter has an opportunity to have an internship at the Capitol, you would tell that mother or father what?
I would say be very vigilant and know exactly who this person is interning for. Most of us women here, we try to be protective. We really try to, make sure that these young students are getting a professional, well-developed, internship and a good experience here in the Capitol.
But you're insinuating that it's more than just John Deal. You're saying that this is a problem that interns should be worried about if they're working in the Capitol.
Well, and I think the situation highlights that. I mean, I really do. I mean, you don't keep putting yourself in a train wreck, without background.
Are you saying it's more than just John Deal, and that there are other issues in the Capitol?
I'm saying that there is rampant sexism in this Capitol, and this is the climate for it. There is not.
Sexism is one thing, but are there relationships? Are there sexual relationships between interns and legislators at the Capitol that you know of right now?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Stacey Newman, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. 8:34. We should say we're going to check in with Jason Hancock, Kansas City Star reporter, who is going to be joining us, who broke this story. He'll be joining us next hour. 8:34. KT.